With 100,000 LGBTQ plus religious school students, data shows discriminatory treatment. There are an estimated 100,000 LGBTQ plus students at religious schools in the U.S. While Title IX, a federal law that prohibits sex-based discrimination, protects most students, religious schools are frequently exempt from having to follow this law. Title IX and the regulations that implement it state that religious institutions do not have to abide by the law if it would be inconsistent with the organization's religious beliefs, according to the U.S. Department of Education. This is true even if the school has taxpayer funding. The exemptions can also be applied to school housing for LGBTQ plus students, allowing the schools to block residency, particularly in the case of trans students.
So Title IX is a great bill that protects a lot of us, but religious institutions get around it for a lot of reasons. Should they?
No, absolutely not.
No.
And you know what? I have this very big issue because I think that what people don't understand about rights is that your rights end where they are infringing on someone else's. When you are infringing on someone else's rights, that is where your rights end. You do not have the right to, because of your own religious beliefs, to say that you don't want someone else to get, to be able to have housing on campus, right? And these things that are necessities for students, attending these universities. And I think that it's extremely. It's a sense of entitlement, I think, to really think that your rights, your rights to religious belief and respecting your own religious beliefs go so far as to infringe on other people's fundamental rights that they also have.
Okay, but just to poke this a little bit, they're religious institutions. They're not denying you or anyone the right to an education. They're just saying not at our school.
Right. I don't understand. Because I come from a religious background. My family is Catholic, and there's just always inconsistencies within these religions where I don't quite understand how they're going to preach that God is loving of everybody, and then the second someone steps into this facility, they have to tone that part of themselves down because it's not what God wants. How is that sending a proper message to other people? How are you conveying how your religion is so open and so loving, and then be so hateful towards a group of people? And it's I don't quite understand, because these people are claiming to care about the children and everything that they do is for the children, but then they go against queer kids and protecting them. And so how can you call yourself a parent if you're not going to love your child completely and just with your whole soul? Like, it's just one of those, like, I get emotional about it because it's like, as a parent, it's your job to love and care about this child, and you're going to inform and teach these other children and tell them that God doesn't like them?
Well, I don't think they would necessarily make that argument, though, but it certainly is the way the argument is received, right? It's not necessarily, how do I want to say it? It's not necessarily always the intention to share hate, but it's definitely received. And so if it's received that way, that's an error in communication.
Right. But I also think that, again, we have laws, right? We are a nation that has laws, and you can't say my personal beliefs, I personally disagree with this law, so I'm not going to follow this law, right? Like, if you are in a regular, a public school institution that receives, again, these are schools that receive state funding, and sometimes, and if you are, if you're in a regular public school institution and you personally have these religious beliefs, you're not allowed to discriminate, right? Because it's not a private school, it's not a Christian school. So why is it that the institution being Christian makes it acceptable, right? If we say I have a religious belief that I think that that I should be able to discriminate against race or against gender, we wouldn't allow that, right? Because we have laws to protect against that. If we said I have a religious belief that I think going out into the middle of town square naked and stripping and doing public indecency, that's my religious belief.
No, I don't need that image.
Well, but that's against the law, right? And you can't say my beliefs trump the laws that we have all agreed upon as a collective body, as a nation.
But we've also agreed to religious freedom, right? We're founded on that. So this is where religious freedom and
it gets confusing.
And education, Title IX, come into conflict. How do you resolve that?
Personally, I think that when we take religious spaces, which are like very, very important to the heart and soul and culture of so many people, you know, especially in the South Florida area where we have this strong base of Latinx culture, of Catholicism, of Christianity. When we rip that away from people and we claim, no, this is our space, this is the space for people who are conforming in this way and only these ways, and if you are anywhere outside of that, you do not belong in the place that you have called home for your entire life, that you have built much of how you conceptualize of yourself, of the world around. Like, morally, it's pretty disgusting how individuals and like groups such as the church are so willing to completely cut off people's connection to their God and their community and their church on the basis of something as minimally important as their sexual orientation or gender identity. And in regard to public funding, if an institution is violating a widely upheld law stating that discrimination is not to be practiced, then they should not be paying to discriminate with my taxpayer dollars. I refuse to fund that. So we should have a complete ban on funding institutions that refuse to comply with discrimination guidelines.
Or any law, really.
I think,
Any law made by that government.
I think the Supreme Court, though, has settled on the side of the religious institutions already.
Well, yeah, that's what happens when you have a conservative supermajority and a basis in Protestantism.
Point taken. Point
Very well
taken.
said, I guess.
LGBTQ plus news is vital for our community and for the broader world as a whole. We have enough enemies at Fox News. Tucker, Sean, and Lara are loud. We need passionate allies. Happening Out Television Network, Queer News Tonight, and It's Happening Out are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. Our community needs your support. Like this broadcast and subscribe now to ensure